The transport ship landed with a soft thud on the metal platform. Ambassador Zethkri stepped out, his forearms adjusting the translation device on his neck. The air on New Meridian smelled different from his home world. It was cleaner, with a hint of something he could not name. Captain Jake Morrison waited at the bottom of the ramp. He was tall for a human, with short brown hair and kind eyes. His uniform was neat and pressed. Behind him stood two other humans in similar clothes. The female had long blonde hair tied back. The male was shorter and had dark skin. "Welcome to New Meridian, Ambassador," Jake said. His voice came through the translator as warm and friendly. "I'm Captain Morrison. This is Lieutenant Amy Carter. And Sergeant Rick Torres." Zethkri bowed in the way of his people. "Thank you for having me. I am honored to be here." The humans did not bow back. Instead, they smiled and nodded. Zethkri had read about this in his briefing files. Humans showed respect differently than most species in the galaxy. They walked through the spaceport together. Zethkri watched the humans around them. They moved with purpose, but seemed relaxed. Children ran between their parents' legs. Vendors sold food from small carts. It looked like any peaceful world in the Galactic Council. "How long have humans lived on this world?" Zethkri asked. "About 50 years, Amy answered. "My grandparents were part of the first wave of settlers. They came here to start fresh. And you have had no troubles?" "No conflicts?" Rick laughed. "Nothing we couldn't handle. A few pirates now and then, but they usually move on when they see you are not easy targets." Zethkri made notes on his small device. This was good. Peaceful species were what the Galactic Council needed. Too many worlds had been lost to war in recent years. The Council needed members who understood the value of peace. They rode in a ground vehicle through the city. The buildings were not tall, but they were well made. Gardens grew between them. People walked on clean streets. Everything looked normal and safe. "Tell me about your government," Zethkri said. "We have a council of elected leaders," Jake explained. "Each district sends representatives. They make decisions together. No one person has too much power." "And your military?" "We have the Colonial Defense Force. That's what I command. We keep the peace and protect the people." Zethkri nodded. This was exactly what he hoped to hear. The Valderai had been peaceful for thousands of years. They understood that violence only led to more violence. These humans seemed to think the same way. They visited a school first. Human children sat in neat rows, learning about science and art. They were curious about Zethkri, asking simple questions about his home world. The teacher, a woman named Helen, kept them orderly but not scared. "We believe education is the key to peace," Helen said. "When people understand each other, they don't fight." Next, they went to a hospital. Doctors and nurses worked to heal the sick. They treated everyone the same, regardless of where they came from. The head doctor, an older man named Paul, showed them around with pride. "We save lives here," Paul said. "That's what matters most." Zethkri was impressed. These humans had built a good society. They cared for their young and their sick. They chose their leaders. They seemed to have no interest in war or conquest. They stopped for lunch at a small restaurant. The food was different, but good. Jake told stories about the early days of the colony, how the first settlers had worked together to build their new home, how they had shared resources and helped each other. "It wasn't always easy," Jake said. "The first winter was hard. We lost some people, but we survived by working together." "Your people seem to understand cooperation," Zethkri said. "We have to," Amy said. "Out here, we only have each other." After lunch, they visited a factory where humans made tools and machines. The workers were efficient, but not rushed. They talked and laughed while they worked. Their supervisor, A woman named Carol explained how they made everything the colony needed. "We try to be self-sufficient," Carol said, "but we also trade with other worlds. We believe in fair exchange." Zethkri was preparing his mental report. These humans would be perfect for the Galactic Council. They were peaceful, cooperative, and intelligent. They had built a stable society without war or oppression. Then the alarm started. The sound was loud and sharp. It came from speakers all over the city. People on the streets stopped what they were doing. They did not panic, but they moved quickly toward buildings. Jake's friendly expression changed. His eyes became hard. He touched a device on his wrist. "Morrison here. Report." A voice crackled through the device. "Captain, we have multiple ships approaching the outer settlements. They're not responding to our signals. Looks like pirates." "How many?" "At least a dozen ships. They're already attacking Haven's Rest." Jake's jaw tightened. "I'll be there in 10 minutes. Get the teams ready." He turned to Zethkri. "I'm sorry, Ambassador. We have a situation. Pirates are attacking one of our settlements." Zethkri felt a chill. He had heard about pirates. They were dangerous criminals who attacked peaceful worlds. But surely the humans would handle this the proper way. They would call for help from the Galactic Council. They would negotiate. They would find a peaceful solution. "What will you do?" Zethkri asked. "We'll stop them," Jake said simply. "But how? Will you contact the Council? Ask for mediation?" Jake looked confused. "There's no time for that. People are dying right now. We have to act." "I would like to observe your response," Zethkri said, "to see how humans handle conflict." Jake hesitated. "Ambassador, I don't think that's a good idea. Human military operations can be ... intense. I have observed many species in conflict. I'm sure I can handle whatever you do." Amy and Rick exchanged a look. Zethkri did not understand what it meant. "All right," Jake said finally. "But stay. Close and do exactly what we tell you. And Ambassador, what you're about to see might be different from what you expect." They ran to a landing pad where a large military aircraft waited. Other humans in combat gear were already boarding. They moved quickly but calmly. Their faces were serious, but not afraid. ZETH single quotes. KR, I climbed into the aircraft. The humans checked their weapons and equipment. They spoke in short, sharp sentences. Military talk. He had heard it before from other species, but something was different. The humans seemed almost eager. They made jokes. They laughed. One young soldier, a woman named Beth, was actually smiling. First combat drop in 3 months. She said to her partner, "I was getting bored." Zethkri was disturbed. These humans were going to fight pirates. People would die. How could they be happy about it? The aircraft lifted off. Through the windows, Zethkri could see the landscape rushing by below. They were flying toward the outer settlements, toward the fighting. "Ambassador," Jake said, sitting beside him, "I want you to understand something. We don't like war. We don't want to fight. But when someone attacks our people, we respond." "Of course," Zethkri said. "All species defend themselves. But surely you will try to negotiate first. Perhaps the pirates can be convinced to leave peacefully?" Jake was quiet for a moment. "These pirates just attacked a settlement full of families. They killed innocent people. There's nothing to negotiate. But the Galactic Council requires that all member species attempt peaceful resolution before. The Galactic Council isn't here," Rick said from across the aircraft. "We are." The aircraft began to descend. Through the windows, Zethkri could see smoke rising from buildings. There were explosions in the distance. The peaceful world he had admired was under attack. The humans around him were no longer laughing. They were focused now. Their weapons were ready. Their faces were calm but determined. "Remember," Jake said to his troops, "protect the civilians, watch your targets, and bring everyone home." The soldiers nodded. They understood. The aircraft touched down hard. The back door opened. The humans moved out quickly and efficiently. Zethkri followed, his heart's beating fast. He was about to see human warfare for the first time. He expected it to be like other species he had observed. Careful, defensive, civilized. He had no idea what he was really about to witness. The sounds of battle hit Zethkri like a physical force. Explosions echoed across the settlement. Weapons fire crackled through the air. Smoke drifted between the buildings. This was Haven's Rest, but it looked nothing like the peaceful towns he had visited earlier. Jake moved his team forward without hesitation. The humans spread out in a pattern that looked random but wasn't. Each soldier knew exactly where to go. They communicated with quick hand signals and short words. "Contacts ahead," whispered Sergeant Lisa Kane into her radio. 6 pirates, northeast corner. Zethkri expected the humans to take defensive positions. Every species he had studied did this. They would find cover, call for the enemy to surrender, and wait for negotiations to begin. That was how civilized beings handled conflict. Instead, Lisa's squad moved toward the pirates. "What are they doing?" Zethkri asked Jake. "Their job," Jake replied. The humans didn't attack directly. They moved around the sides of the pirate position. It was like watching predators hunt. They were patient but aggressive at the same time. They wanted to get close to their enemy. The pirates saw them coming. These were not organized soldiers. They were criminals with stolen weapons and old armor. They started shooting wildly in all directions. The humans didn't shoot back immediately. They moved from cover to cover. They got closer. Then, when they were in the right position, they struck. It was over in seconds. The pirates went down without landing a single hit on the humans. Lisa's team checked the bodies and moved on to the next target. "Sector clear," Lisa reported. Zet Cree felt sick. They didn't even try to surrender. "They were shooting at us," Amy said. "And at civilians." "But surely you could have captured them? Brought them to justice?" Jake looked at him strangely. "They chose their path when they started killing innocent people." The team moved deeper into the settlement. Zethkri saw more human soldiers working in small groups. They moved like they had done this many times before. There was no confusion, no hesitation. Each person knew their role. They found a group of civilians hiding in a basement, a family with 2 small children. The parents were scared, but alive. The humans helped them to safety with gentle words and careful hands. "Are you hurt?" asked Corporal Danny Walsh, kneeling beside the smaller child. The little girl shook her head. Danny smiled and gave her a piece of candy from his pocket. "It's going to be okay," he told her. "The bad guys are going away." Zethkri was confused. These same humans who had just killed 6 pirates were now being kind to children. How could they switch so quickly between violence and gentleness? The radio crackled. "All units, we have pirates with hostages in the school building. They want to negotiate." Finally, Zethkri thought. This was what he expected. The pirates would surrender. The humans would accept. Everyone would follow the proper rules of war. Jake's expression didn't change. "How many hostages?" "Looks like 12 civilians. Teachers and maintenance workers. And pirates? Maybe 8. They have good cover." Jake nodded. "We'll be there in 5 minutes." They moved toward the school. Zethkri saw other human teams doing the same thing. They surrounded the building but didn't attack. This was better. This was civilized. A pirate voice came over a loudspeaker. "You want safe passage off this world. Give us a ship and we'll let the hostages go." Jake picked up his. Own radio. This is Captain Morrison of the Colonial Defense Force. Release the hostages and we'll talk. No deal. Ship first, then hostages. Zethkri nodded to himself. This was how it should work. The pirates would get their ship. The hostages would be freed. Everyone would live. It wasn't perfect, but it was peaceful. Jake was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke into his radio again. You have 60 seconds to release the hostages. After that, we come in. Wait, Zethkri said. They offered to negotiate. You should. They're criminals holding innocent people, Jake said. There's nothing to negotiate. But the Galactic Council requires. The Galactic Council isn't here. The 60 seconds passed. The pirates didn't come out. Instead, they fired at the human positions. Then came a sound that made Zethkri's blood freeze. Screaming from inside the building. They just shot a hostage, someone reported over the radio. Jake's face went completely still. When he spoke again, his voice was different, colder. All units switched to Protocol 7. Zethkri didn't know what Protocol 7 meant, but he saw the effect on the human soldiers. Their movements became more focused. Their expressions became harder. What is Protocol 7? He asked. No prisoners. Amy said quietly. What do you mean, no prisoners? They killed an innocent person, Rick explained. They chose to cross a line. Now they deal with the consequences. The assault began. The humans didn't charge the building. They didn't use heavy weapons that might hurt the remaining hostages. Instead, they moved like ghosts. Zethkri watched in growing horror as the humans entered the school through windows, doors, and even the roof. They moved silently through the halls. They knew exactly where each pirate was positioned. The fighting was brief but terrible. The humans didn't give the pirates a chance to surrender. They didn't call out warnings. They simply eliminated each threat as they found it. When it was over, 11 hostages came out alive. One didn't. She was a teacher named Mary, who had tried to protect her students. The pirates had shot her when the negotiations failed. 8 pirates had been in the building. None of them came out alive. Sector secure, Jake reported. Zethkri stared at the school. They tried to surrender at the end. I heard them calling out. Too late, Danny said. He was cleaning his weapon. Should have thought about that before they shot Mary. But the rules of war, their rules, Lisa said. They broke them first. The rest of the battle was a nightmare for Zethkri. The humans fought unlike any species he had ever seen. They were efficient, coordinated, and completely ruthless. When pirates tried to surrender, the humans accepted. But when pirates broke their surrender by attacking again, the humans showed no mercy. The second time Private Beth Coleman moved through the battlefield like she was born for it. She used fear as a weapon, making pirate voices over captured radios. To confuse the enemy, she made them afraid of shadows and sounds that weren't there. Lieutenant Kevin Brooks called in precise artillery strikes that seemed to know where the pirates would run before they ran there. He studied their patterns and predicted their movements like he was reading their minds. By the end of the day, the pirate force was completely destroyed. Some had surrendered and been taken prisoner. Others had died fighting. A few had tried to escape and been hunted down in the wilderness around the settlement. Final count, Jake reported to his superiors. 43 pirates neutralized. 11 captured. 0 escaped. Civilian casualties. 14 dead, 26 wounded. Zethkri felt numb. How do you know none escaped? We tracked them all, Rick said. When someone attacks our people, we don't let them get away to do it again. But how can you be sure? You got them all? Jake looked at him with those kind eyes that now seemed much colder. Because we're very good at this, Ambassador. We've had a lot of practice. As they flew back to the capital, Zethkri tried to process what he had seen. The humans had saved the settlement. They had protected innocent people. They had done their job, but the way they had done it was unlike anything in his experience. They fought with a combination of precision and savagery that no other species possessed. They could be gentle with children and deadly to enemies in the same breath. "I don't understand," he said to Jake. "How can you switch so easily between kindness and violence?" Jake was quiet for a long time. "Because we have to. The universe is a dangerous place. If we're not ready to fight, we can't protect the people we love. But surely there are other ways. Negotiation, compromise, peaceful solutions. We tried negotiation. They shot a hostage. Not all conflicts end that way." "No," Jake agreed. "But we prepare for the ones that do." Zethkri realized that his report to the Galactic Council would be very different from what he had planned. These humans were not the peaceful species he had hoped to find. They were something else entirely, something that scared him more than he wanted to admit. Zethkri could not sleep that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the faces of the human soldiers. The way they had moved through the battlefield like they belonged there. The casual way they had spoken about killing. The complete absence of fear in their voices. He had requested access to human military history. If he was going to report to the Galactic Council about these people, he needed to understand them better. What he had seen at Haven's Rest was just one battle. Maybe it was unusual. Maybe humans normally fought differently. The next morning, Dr. Helen Martinez met him in a small office at the military base. She was older than most of the soldiers he had met, with gray hair and tired eyes. She carried a large case filled with data files and recordings. "Captain Morrison told me you want to learn about human warfare," she said, setting the case on the table. "I have to warn you, Ambassador, our history is not pleasant. Most species find it disturbing. I have studied many conflicts across the galaxy," Zethkri replied. "I think I can handle whatever you show me." Dr. Martinez opened the case. Inside were hundreds of data crystals, each one labeled with dates and locations. These contain records of human conflicts going back 5,000 years. "Where would you like to start?" "The beginning. Show me how humans first learned to fight." She selected a crystal and inserted it into the viewing device. Images appeared on the screen. Primitive humans with simple weapons made of stone and wood. They were fighting other humans over territory and resources. "This is from our early history," Dr. Martinez explained. "Even then, we were different from most species. We didn't just fight to survive. We fought to win." The images showed human warriors using tactics that Zethkri had never seen before. They attacked at night. They used the environment as a weapon. They made traps and ambushes. They fought dirty. "Most species develop past this stage," Zethkri said. "They learn that cooperation is better than conflict." "We did learn cooperation," Dr. Martinez said. "But we never stopped learning how to fight. Watch this." She showed him recordings from human wars throughout their history. Each conflict was more sophisticated than the last. Humans developed new weapons, new strategies, new ways to destroy their enemies. But they also developed new ways to protect their own people. "This is the siege of Thermopylae," she said, showing him an ancient battle. 300 warriors held off an army of thousands. They knew they would die, but they fought anyway to give their people time to prepare. Zethkri watched the small force of humans face impossible odds. They should have surrendered. Any reasonable species would have negotiated. Instead, they fought to the last man. "Why didn't they run?" he asked. "Because someone had to make a stand. Someone had to buy time for the others to escape." She showed him more battles. Humans fighting against other humans, against alien invaders, against impossible odds. In every case, They displayed the same qualities he had seen at Haven's Rest. They were creative, ruthless, and completely committed to victory. "This is from the colonial wars," Dr. Martinez said, loading a new crystal. 50 years ago, we fought against the Nexus Empire for control of the outer systems. The images showed space battles on a scale that made Zethkri's head spin. Hundreds of ships locked in deadly combat. Humans boarding enemy vessels in desperate, close-quarters fighting. Entire worlds being evacuated under fire. The Nexus Empire had better technology, Dr. Martinez explained. Their ships were faster, and their weapons were stronger. But they made one mistake. They underestimated human determination. Colonel Steve Parker entered the room. He was an older man with scars on his face and hands. His uniform was covered with medals and ribbons. "Ambassador," he said, nodding politely. "Dr. Martinez told me you're learning about our military history." Colonel Parker commanded the defense of Kepler Station, Dr. Martinez said. "One of our most famous victories." "Victory is a strong word," Parker said quietly. "We held the station, but the cost was terrible." He sat down and looked at the viewing screen. The Nexus Empire sent 3 fleets to take Kepler Station. We had 1 small garrison, and whatever ships we could scrape together. The battle lasted 8 months. Zethkri listened as Parker described the siege. How the humans had refused to surrender, even when their situation became hopeless. How they had fought in the corridors of their own station when the enemy broke through. How they had used their own damaged ships as weapons. "We lost 60% of our people," Parker said, "but we held the station. And while we were fighting, there, human fleets were striking at Nexus supply lines. Our sacrifice gave them the time they needed to win the war." "You could have surrendered," Zethkri said. "You could have negotiated." Parker's expression hardened. The Nexus Empire didn't negotiate. They conquered. They turned entire populations into slaves. Someone had to stop them. But the cost was worth it. Every life we lost at Kepler saved. 100 lives somewhere else. Dr. Martinez showed him more recent conflicts. Pirates, rebels, and alien raiders who had tested human resolve. In every case, the pattern was the same. Humans fought harder and longer than anyone expected. They used tactics that other species found shocking. "This is footage from the Vega colony incident," she said. "Pirates took over the entire system and demanded tribute from passing ships. The Galactic Council tried to negotiate for 2 years. What happened? We sent 1 battle group. The pirates were gone in 3 days." The recording showed human ships moving through the Vega system like avenging angels. They didn't just defeat the pirates. They hunted them down to the last ship. They made sure none escaped to threaten other systems. "We don't have wars crimes?" Zethkri asked, remembering something he had read. "We do," Dr. Martinez said carefully. "But our definition might be different from yours." She showed him a list of actions that humans considered unacceptable in warfare. Killing prisoners who had truly surrendered, attacking medical facilities, using biological weapons against civilian populations. "But notice what's not on the list," Colonel Parker said. "Fighting to the death instead of surrendering. Using any means necessary to protect innocent people. Hunting down enemies who threaten your home. Other species would call some of your tactics war crimes," Zethkri said. "Other species haven't fought the battles we've fought," Parker replied. "When someone threatens to destroy everything you love, you use whatever weapons you have." Dr. Martinez loaded 1 final crystal. "This is from Major Chris Thompson's campaign against the Red Sun's mercenary group. They were hired to cleanse 3 agricultural worlds for corporate development." The images showed a human fleet facing a much larger enemy force. The mercenaries had better ships and more troops. They should have won easily. Instead, Zethkri watched humans turn the battle into a nightmare for their enemies. They used asteroid fields as weapons. They turned the enemy's own supply ships against them. They fought a running battle across 3 star systems, using every dirty trick they could think of. The mercenaries had no idea what they were getting into, Parker said. They thought it would be easy. Kill some farmers and collect their pay. What happened to them? They ceased to exist as an organization. Every ship, every base, every leader, gone. But the agricultural worlds were saved. 3 billion people got to keep their homes and their lives. Zethkri felt overwhelmed. Human military history was a continuous chain of conflicts, each one, teaching them new ways to fight and win. They had turned warfare into a science. Why? He asked. Why do you fight so much? Why don't you find peaceful solutions? Dr. Martinez and Colonel Parker exchanged a look. Because the universe is full of people who don't want peaceful solutions, Parker said, and someone has to stop them. We tried being peaceful, Dr. Martinez added. Early in our expansion, we thought we could negotiate with everyone. Find compromises. Make everyone happy. What changed your minds? The massacre at New Eden, Parker said quietly. An entire colony. Men, women, children. Wiped out by raiders while they were trying to negotiate. We learned that day that some people only understand one language, Dr. Martinez said, so we became very good at speaking it. Zethkri looked at the data crystals scattered across the table. Each one contained stories of human conflicts. Thousands of battles, millions of deaths, and a species that had learned to embrace warfare as a tool for protecting what they valued. Your people scare me, he admitted. Good, Parker said. We scare our enemies too. That's the point. But you're not evil. You protect innocent people. You help those who can't help themselves. That's exactly why we're dangerous, Dr. Martinez said. We don't fight for conquest or glory. We fight for survival and protection. That makes us willing to do things other species won't do. As Zethkri left the briefing room, he realized that his understanding of humans had changed completely. They weren't just another species that happened to be good at fighting. They were something new in the galaxy, a species that had turned the art of war into their greatest strength, and they were about to join the Galactic Council. The alarm started again at dawn. Zethkri woke to the harsh sound echoing through the government building where he was staying. This time the noise was different, louder, more urgent. Jake Morrison burst through his door without knocking. Captain looked tired and angry. Ambassador, we need to move you to a secure location. Now. What's happening? The pirates we fought yesterday? They were just scouts. The main fleet just jumped into our system. They're heading straight for the capital. Zethkri felt his blood turn cold. How many ships? Too many. This isn't a raid anymore. This is an invasion. They rushed through the hallways of the building. Other humans moved with the same urgent purpose. But Zethkri noticed something strange. They weren't panicking. They weren't running in fear. They looked determined, almost eager. General Patricia Woods was waiting in the command center. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and gray hair. Maps and screens covered the walls around her. Dozens of officers worked at control stations. Ambassador, she said without looking up from her displays. I'm sorry you have to see this. We're going to have to ask you to stay in the bunker until this is over. I want to observe, Zethkri said. I need to see how humans handle a real crisis. General Woods finally looked at him. This isn't going to be like yesterday. This is total war. Are you sure you want to watch? Yes, she nodded to Jake. Keep him safe. And keep him out of the way. The main screen showed the approaching pirate fleet. Zethkri counted the ships and felt sick. There were more than 50 vessels of various sizes. The human defense force had maybe 20 ships in the entire system. They outnumber us 3-1. he said. Numbers aren't everything, General Woods replied. She began giving orders to her staff. Human ships moved to intercept positions. Ground forces prepared defensive positions around the capital. Civilians were evacuated to underground shelters. Again, Zethkri saw something he didn't expect. The humans weren't just preparing to defend. They were preparing to attack. "Shouldn't you call for help from the Galactic Council?" he asked. "Help would take weeks to arrive," General Woods said. "This will be over in hours. Then surrender, negotiate, save lives." These pirates just destroyed 3 civilian transports on their way here. Killed 1,500 innocent people. We're past negotiation. A space battle began when the 2 fleets met at the edge of the system. Zethkri watched on the screens as human ships engaged enemies twice their size. The pirates had more ships and bigger guns. They should have won easily. Instead, the humans fought like demons. Commander Ryan Bell led a squadron of fighters in what looked like a suicide attack against the pirate flagship. His small ships dove through the enemy formation, taking terrible damage but drawing fire away from the larger human vessels. "Bell's squadron is taking heavy losses," someone reported. "He knows what he's doing," General Woods said calmly. On the yacht screen, Zethkri watched Bell's fighters sacrifice themselves to create an opening for the human cruisers. It was brilliant and horrible at the same time. The humans were using their own lives as weapons. The battle moved closer to the planet. Some pirate ships broke through the human defense line and began landing troops in the capital city. Zethkri expected the humans to retreat to defensive positions and wait for help. Instead, they went hunting. Sergeant Tony Garcia led his unit through the city streets, tracking down pirate landing parties. They didn't wait for the enemy to come to them. They went looking for trouble. "Garcia's team is outnumbered 4-1, Jake reported. "Tony likes those odds," General Woods said. Zethkri watched through security cameras as Garcia's humans moved through the urban battlefield. They used the city itself as a weapon. They knew every alley, every building, every hiding place. Pirates were lost in unfamiliar territory, while the humans were fighting on their home ground. When one pirate group tried to take hostages at a shopping center, Garcia's team hit them from 3 different directions at once. The fight was over in minutes. The pirates never had a chance. "How do they move so fast?" Zethkri asked. "They've been training for this their whole lives," Jake said. "Every human child learns basic combat skills. Every adult knows how to fight. Even civilians? Especially civilians. When someone attacks your home, everyone becomes a soldier." The space battle was turning in humanity's favor, despite the odds. The pirates had expected an easy victory against a small colonial world. Instead, they found themselves fighting the most dangerous enemy they had ever faced. Human ships worked together in ways that seemed impossible. They coordinated attacks across vast distances. They sacrificed themselves to save their teammates. They fought with a combination of tactical brilliance and desperate courage that the pirates couldn't match. "The enemy flagship is trying to escape," someone reported. "Not today," General Woods said. "Bell, can you stop them?" Commander Bell's voice came through the radio. He sounded tired but determined. "I've got 1 fighter left and enough missiles for a final run. That's a suicide mission, Ryan." "I know. Tell my wife I love her." Zethkri watched in horror as Bell's damaged fighter flew straight at the massive pirate ship. He could have turned back. He could have found another way. Instead, he chose to sacrifice himself to stop the enemy from escaping. The explosion lit up the entire system. The pirate flagship broke apart and died. Commander Bell died with it. "Why?" Zethkri whispered. "Why throw his life away like that?" "Because if that ship escaped, it would have brought back reinforcements," Jake said. "Ryan saved thousands of lives. But he had family, a wife. He said so himself. That's exactly why he did it, to protect her and everyone else. The ground. Battle was ending too. The pirate forces that had landed in the city were either dead or captured. They had expected to face frightened civilians and light security forces. Instead, they found themselves fighting an entire population that refused to give up. Tony Garcia's team cornered the last group of pirates in an abandoned warehouse. The enemy tried to surrender, but they had made a fatal mistake. They had killed civilians during their landing, women and children who were just trying to get to safety. No quarter, Garcia said over the radio. Sethkri knew what that meant now. No prisoners, no mercy. Complete destruction. The final group of pirates died fighting. They had no choice. The humans weren't going to let them live after what they had. Done. When it was over, General Woods stood in front of her command screens and gave her final report. All enemy forces eliminated. No pirate ships escaped. Ground invasion repelled. Civilian casualties minimal. What about the pirates who surrendered earlier? Sethkri asked. The ones who surrendered before they killed civilians? They are in prison. They'll be tried and sentenced according to our laws. And the others? There are no others. Sethkri felt numb. In one day, he had watched humans completely destroy a force 3 times their size. They had done it with tactics that were brilliant and ruthless. They had sacrificed their own lives without hesitation to protect their people. This is how humans always fight? He asked. This is how we fight when someone threatens our home. General Woods said, we don't just defend. We eliminate the threat completely. But the cost was acceptable. We lost 12 ships and 300 people. The pirates lost everything. How can you be so calm about your own losses? Because every person who died today died protecting something important. Their families, their homes, their way of life. That's worth any price. Jake led Sethkri out of the command center. The city was already returning to normal. Emergency crews were cleaning up damage. Civilians were coming out of the shelters. Children were playing in the streets again. How do you do it? Sethkri asked. How do you go from total war to normal life so quickly? Because this is normal life for us, Jake said. We live in a dangerous universe. We have to be ready to fight at any moment. But we also have to be ready to live and love and build things when the fighting stops. Your people are monsters. Yes, Jake agreed, when we have to be. But we're also the people who build schools and hospitals and playgrounds. We're the people who sing lullabies to our children and grow flowers in our gardens. I don't understand how you can be both. Because that's what it takes to survive. To protect the things we love, we have to be willing to become the things our enemies fear. As they walked through the city, Sethkri saw both sides of humanity. Soldiers cleaning their weapons and citizens helping the wounded. Engineers repairing damaged. Buildings and parents holding their children close. These humans were not like any species he had ever encountered. They could switch between creation and destruction, between love and war, between mercy and vengeance. They were the most terrifying and the most admirable beings he had ever met. And tomorrow, he would have to tell the Galactic Council what he had learned. The great hall of the Galactic Council was quiet as Sethkri walked to the speaking platform. Representatives from 47 different species sat in curved rows, all waiting to hear his report about humanity. Their faces showed curiosity and hope. They expected good news about a new peaceful species joining their ranks. Sethkri's hands shook as he placed his notes on the podium. Behind him, Admiral Susan Clark sat with perfect posture in her crisp human uniform. She had come to represent humanity at this historic meeting. Her calm expression gave no hint of what was coming. Honored representatives, Sethkri began, his voice echoing through the chamber. I have completed my study of the human species. My report will determine whether they are suitable for membership in our council. Murmurs of approval rippled through the audience. The council needed new members. Too many worlds had been lost to pirates and raiders in recent years. The existing members were peaceful species who preferred negotiation to conflict. I must warn you, Sethgri continued, that what I learned about humans will challenge everything we believe about warfare and civilization. The murmurs stopped. The representatives leaned forward in their seats. Humans are the most dangerous species the galaxy has ever produced. Shocked gasps filled the chamber. Several representatives started talking at once. The council president, a tall being from the Aldari system, called for order. Ambassador Sethgri, the president said, please explain this statement. Are humans violent by nature? Do they seek conquest? No, Sethgri replied. They are not violent by nature. They do not seek conquest. They are dangerous for a much worse reason. They are exceptionally good at warfare, and they use that skill to protect others. More confused murmurs. This was not what anyone expected to hear. Sethgri activated the viewing screens around the chamber. Images from his time on New Meridian began to play. The peaceful cities, the happy families, the civilized society. At first, humans appear to be ideal council members, he said. They are intelligent, cooperative, and peaceful. They have built a stable society based on cooperation and mutual respect. The representatives nodded approvingly. This was what they wanted to see. But then I witnessed them in combat. The images changed. Now the screens showed footage from the pirate attacks. Human soldiers moving through battlefields with deadly efficiency. The faces of the council representatives grew pale as they watched. Humans do not fight the way we do, Sethgri explained. When threatened, they do not retreat and call for negotiation. They attack. They hunt their enemies until none remain. Representative Veltar from the Setian Republic stood up. Surely this is just one incident. All species defend themselves when attacked. I studied 5,000 years of human military history, Sethgri replied. This is not one incident. This is who they are. He showed them more footage. Ancient human battles, space conflicts, the systematic destruction of pirate organizations. Each image was more shocking than the last. They have turned warfare into a science, Sethgri said. Every conflict teaches them new ways to fight and win. They study their enemies, learn their weaknesses, and develop tactics specifically designed to exploit those weaknesses. Representative Morgai from the Peaceful Worlds Alliance looked horrified. This sounds like a species we should avoid, not invite to join us. That was my first thought too, Sethgri admitted. But then I witnessed something that changed my understanding completely. He showed them footage from the final battle. Commander Bell's sacrifice to stop the pirate flagship. Tony Garcia's team protecting civilians. Human soldiers dying to save strangers. Humans do not fight for conquest or glory, Sethgri said. They fight to protect others. They are willing to sacrifice their own lives to save people they have never met. Admiral Clark stood up. May I address the council? The president nodded. Please, Admiral. Help us understand your species. Clark walked to the podium with quiet confidence. She looked out at the assembled representatives without fear or apology. Everything Ambassador Sethgri has told you is true, she said. We are very good at warfare. We have spent thousands of years learning how to fight and win. We are probably the most effective military force in the galaxy. Several representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. But you need to understand why we became this way, Clark continued. We live in a universe full of dangers. Pirates, raiders, conquerors, and worse. We learned long ago that peaceful words mean nothing to people who only understand violence. She gestured toward the screens, which now showed images of human colonies, schools, and hospitals. We do not fight because we enjoy it. We fight because someone has to. While you debate and negotiate, innocent people die. While you search for peaceful solutions, raiders destroy entire worlds. Representative Veltar stood again. But surely there are other ways. The Council has maintained peace for centuries through diplomacy. Your peace has been an illusion, Clark said bluntly. How many raids have happened in Council space this year alone? How many ships have been lost to pirates? How many worlds have paid tribute to avoid destruction? The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew the answer. Piracy and raiding had increased dramatically in recent years. We offer something different, Clark said. We offer protection, real protection. When pirates threaten a peaceful world, we do not send negotiators. We send warships. We do not seek compromises with murderers. We eliminate them. But at what cost? Asked Representative Mordai. How many innocents die in your wars? Fewer than die when we do nothing, Clark replied. Every pirate organization we destroy saves hundreds of future victims. Every raider base we eliminate protects dozens of peaceful worlds. Zethkri stepped forward again. I have seen humans switch from deadly warriors to gentle healers in moments. They can be monsters when they need to be, but they can also be the most compassionate beings in the galaxy. He showed new footage. Human soldiers giving candy to frightened children. Doctors treating wounded enemies. Engineers rebuilding destroyed cities. They carry both creation and destruction within them, Zethkri said. They can build schools and destroy fleets with equal skill. They are what the galaxy needs, even if they terrify us. The debate that followed lasted for hours. Some representatives wanted to reject humanity completely. They feared that human military culture would spread to other species. They worried about creating a more violent galaxy. Others argued that humanity's protection was exactly what the peaceful worlds needed. Pirates and raiders had grown bolder in recent years. Traditional diplomacy was failing. Finally, Representative Kellerin from the Trade Federation asked the crucial question. What do humans want from us? What is their price for protection? Admiral Clark answered simply, acceptance. We want to be part of the galactic community. We want our children to grow up in a universe where they can explore and trade and learn from other species. And in return, we will do what we have always done. We will stand guard in the darkness. We will face the threats that peaceful species cannot handle. We will be the monsters so your children do not have to be. The vote was close. 24 representatives voted to accept humanity into the Council. 23 voted against. The deciding vote came from President Harmuth, who had remained silent throughout the debate. I vote to accept, he said. Not because I am not afraid of humans, but because I am more afraid of what happens if they are not with us. The chamber erupted in arguments and discussions. Some representatives stormed out in anger. Others approached Admiral Clark to ask about protection agreements. Zethkri found himself standing next to Jake Morrison, who had arrived with the human delegation. Do you think we made the right choice? Zethkri asked. Time will tell, Jake replied. But I can promise you this. As long as humans are part of the Council, no peaceful world will stand alone against the darkness. And if other species become afraid of us, if they see us as the greater threat, Jake's expression was sad but determined. Then we will protect them from us too, if necessary. That is who we are. We do not let innocent people suffer, even if they fear us for it. 6 months later, Zethkri received a report that changed everything. The Nexus Cartel, the largest pirate organization in the galaxy, had announced they were abandoning all operations in Council space. Their reason was simple. The humans are coming. 3 major raider fleets had been completely destroyed by human forces. 2 slaver operations had been eliminated so thoroughly that no trace remained. Word was spreading through the criminal underworld that attacking council worlds was now a death sentence. For the first time in decades, trade routes were safe. Civilian ships traveled without armed escorts. Children on border worlds slept peacefully. At night, the galaxy had found its guardians. They were terrifying and gentle, creative and destructive, human and inhuman all at once. They stood watch in the darkness, so others could live in the light. And in the deep places where evil gathered, the word spread like a whisper of fear. Beware the humans. They do not forget. They do not forgive. They do not stop until the innocent are safe. The galaxy was learning what pirates and raiders already knew. Humanity had arrived, and the universe would never be the same.